Hey there, everybody, it's your old pal Michael. Welcome to another edition of Sports Talk, recapping Super Bowl 50. If you remember, you went back and maybe watched the preview show. I predicted Denver would win this game 20-17. Well, it wasn't exactly 20-17. It wasn't actually a real nail biter. They actually won the game 24-10. The only times I was worried was maybe in the fourth quarter when it was 16-10, when it was a one-score game. But after Denver forced a Carolina fumble and recovered and then scored a touchdown, at that point, kind of knew that Denver was going to win the game. So can't wait to go out and buy a championship DVD so I can, save it so I can see the game again. Championship shirt and a championship hat. But we're not going to be discussing what kind of fashion I'm going to be doing. We are going to discuss the game. How did the game turn out? Well, Denver's defense dominated, actually pretty much like I thought they would. Now, did Carolina maybe come into this game overconfident, thinking that they were going to maybe roll over the Broncos? It is a possibility. I mean, I didn't really see it on the field except for maybe sometimes the Panthers players acted a little cocky, especially after the touchdown that they got early in the game, their only touchdown. They kind of acted a little cocky after that, and it's like you're still losing. You're being dominated. So I don't know why they were acting all cocky at that point anyways. So to me, I think maybe they came in a little overconfident, a little cocky. And plus, I think maybe they played their best game of the season in the NFC Championship game. And of course, they haven't faced a Denver defense like Denver all year, which had Von Miller, Aqib Talib, Chris Harris, DeMarcus Ware. Just great overall defensive players in the game. And it showed. Cam Newton was rattled a lot in this game. Tom Brady, of course, AFC Championship game was rattled a lot. So, I mean, for Denver to take down these two quarterbacks, especially Cam Newton just winning the MVP of the NFL, the whole league this week, was pretty amazing, pretty fantastic. And like I said, too, with Denver being here 2 years ago and being blown out, you knew that these players weren't going to want to come in again and lose. They didn't want to get blown out, and you could see it that they didn't want that to happen. And they played really hard. They played really tough. And of course, a couple years ago, Von Miller wasn't able to play, and Wolf wasn't able to play as well because they were injured. There was one other guy as well. There was three big defensive players that couldn't play because they were injured going into the game in Seattle, which hurt them. Also, they knew this was probably Peyton Manning's last game, although he hasn't officially announced that he's going to retire yet. More than likely, I have to say this is it for Manning. If he hadn't won, maybe he would have came back for one more year. But I mean, John Elway did. John Elway won one and came back one more year, but I think John Elway still had game in him. With Manning, I mean, he could have the defense around him, but I mean, teams are definitely going to want to go out and key against Denver next year and beat them because they are, Super Bowl champions. So I feel like Manning wouldn't be as successful. I mean, he'd have to be the game manager he was, and Denver's not going to win every single game scoring, 15 to 20 points a game. So if I were Peyton Manning and I were in his shoes, you have 2 Super Bowl victories. You're one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history. I would retire, and that's what I feel like Peyton's going to do. I don't think he's going to announce it Monday. It's probably going to be more middle end of the week. Probably he'll announce his retirement. That's my guess. If he doesn't announce it this week, then, at least I would say by the end of the month that he would announce it. Because, like I said, I don't think he's coming back. He doesn't have anything left to prove anymore. He's won the MVP multiple times. He's won 2 Super Bowls. He's done it all. He doesn't need to come back again. I mean, he had that neck injury a few years ago. He doesn't need to put himself at risk anymore. Relax, retire, continue doing those commercials, nationwide Papa John's. I think that's what Manning's going to do. So anyways, getting back to the game. Cam Newton did not look like an MVP in this game. He was 18 of 41. Like I said, Broncos harassed him in this game. Threw for only 265 yards, threw 1 interception, and he was sacked 6 times in this game. They also recorded a sack against Ted Ginn, but that was just because he ended up running out of bounds. Von Miller, 2.5 sacks. DeMarcus Ware, 2 sacks in this game. Von Miller also forced 2 fumbles. Both ended up leading to Denver touchdowns. One was immediately recovered for a touchdown. Another one was recovered and led to a C.J. Anderson touchdown late in the game. That was Denver's only defensive touchdown of the game, or only offensive touchdown of the game, by the way. Their other one was a defensive touchdown. Carolina, of course, had one offensive touchdown that came in the second quarter. Peyton Manning wasn't great, but he didn't have to play great. 13 of 23, 141 yards, intercepted one time, sacked 5 times. So Carolina's defense played well also. Because, I mean, if you think about it, one defensive touchdown for Denver, and then the other touchdown, they had it down inside the 10-yard line of Carolina. So there's 14 points there, if you count, the touchdowns. 14 points, or actually it's 15 because Denver went for 2 on 1. 15 points, Denver scores, but Carolina really didn't, their defense was at their back on one, and their defense wasn't on the field on another. And, of course, there was the time that Carolina turned the ball over deep in their own territory, and Denver got a field goal out of it. So, really, Carolina's defense only gave up, if you think about it, without the turnover, 6 points in this game. So, both defenses played very well. Without those, this could have been a really low-scoring game. Maybe Denver wouldn't have had a touchdown. Could have been the second team in NFL history without a touchdown if Carolina didn't have the turnovers. But Denver really forced it on them. But Peyton Manning did have some good passes to Emmanuel Sanders, found him when he needed to. Owen Daniels, he found Caldwell for a good catch in the game. So it's not like Peyton Manning didn't contribute to this game, because he did. If he was like 0 for 23 passing, obviously Denver was not going to win. C.J. Anderson, 23 carries for 90 yards, 1 touchdown. He had a long run of 34. He's their power back, and he did a pretty good job running the ball. Even though, he was held under 100 yards, he still did a good job. Cam Newton, of course, got loose 6 times for 45 yards. That was really the only time Cam Newton was really effective, because Jonathan Stewart, 12 carries, 29 yards, 1 touchdown, was ineffective most of the game. Ted Ginn did come alive in the second half, 4 receptions for 74 yards. Corey Brown, 4 receptions for 80 yards. So they did have a couple of deep catches. Emmanuel Sanders had 6 catches for 83 yards. Caldwell, like I said, he had that 1 for 22. Daniels, 1 for 18. And Demaryius Thomas, he only had 1 catch in this game. Actually, you know what? That other time Carolina only gave up a field goal when Denver got it down to the Carolina 14 was not on a turnover. I must correct myself. That was on a Jordan Norwood 61-yard punt return that Carolina thought he had called a fair catch on, which he hadn't. And he returned it all the way to the 14. In fact, that's the longest punt return in Super Bowl history. And there actually had never been a punt return for a touchdown in Super Bowl history, and there still hasn't. So Carolina's defense was their backs were against the wall already to start that drive. So Denver forced some fumbles in this game. Obviously, Von Miller forced 2 of the fumbles. Peyton Manning obviously fumbled it twice, recovered it only once. T.J. Ward fumbled once. The one I was saying that he should have got up and continued running, but then he got up and fumbled it. So Trevathan had to recover his fumble, and then Malik Jackson recovered the one actually in the end zone for a touchdown. Ely for Carolina actually forced Peyton Manning to fumble it twice. So he did a good job. Luke Kuechly, 10 tackles on the day. 7 of them were solo. He also had a sack. Like I said, Miller, 2.5 sacks. Chris Harris, 1 sack. Ware, 2 sacks. Derek Wolfe had a half sack. Darian Stewart had a sack as well. So as a team, Denver had 7 total sacks in the game. 1 interception was made by Ely, and 1 interception was made by T.J. Ward. That was the one he actually fumbled after he got up. And Brandon McManus was key as well in this game. 3 field goals, all made. They were all within the 30-yard range. His long was a 34 in the game. Graham Gano missed a field goal. Kind of took some momentum away from Carolina. But I thought actually when Peyton Manning fumbled and the Panthers recovered, and it was still 16-10. Actually, that time it was 16-7. I thought, oh no, Carolina's got some momentum on their side. But they only turned it into a field goal, and they couldn't do anything after that. So it was kind of, a chess match after that. Denver was trying to be conservative to run the clock down. And then Carolina, they just couldn't do anything. And then they didn't even go for it late in the game on a 4th down deep in their own territory with just a little over 2 minutes to go in the game, and they still had 2 timeouts. But, if you go for it and you don't get it, then Denver blows you out probably even more in the game. So, but, in that situation, you might want to just try to go for it and, give yourself a chance. But they didn't do that. So, like I said, Denver's defense played phenomenal. Number 1 defense in the league, and they showed it. Carolina's defense played great as well. Number 2 defense in the league. They showed it. So it was a defensive struggle. This was not an offensive game. I did not think this was going to be a high-scoring game, and I was correct on that. I predicted basically 37 points would be scored in this game. It was going to be 2017. 34 points was scored in this game. So let's get the recap here, scoring recap, if we can get it, if I can find it on here. We might just hit the box score first, or I can hit the play-by-play on here. Yeah, let's get the scoring plays. That way we can kind of give you what happened. So Denver's first drive ended with the field goal. That's when they hit Owen Daniels and Caldwell down the field, and Denver looked like they were maybe going to go in for a touchdown, but that's when McManus kicked the 34-yard field goal to make it 3-0. Malik Jackson recovered a Cam Newton fumble to make it 10-0 Denver. And I had said in my preview that they need to harass Cam Newton and go after them, and Denver did do that in this game. Jonathan Stewart then scored a 1-yard touchdown run in the second quarter to make it 10-7. And that was when I thought Carolina was kind of getting a little cocky, overconfident, thinking, you're still down and you're not still playing well. And then Brandon McManus made a 33-yard field goal with 6:58 remaining in the second quarter to make it 13-7 Denver, which is what the score was at halftime. McManus added a 30-yard field goal with 8:18 remaining in the third quarter to make it 16-7 Denver. Graham Gano cut it to 16-10 with 10:21 remaining in the fourth quarter. But then C.J. Anderson capped it after a Cam Newton fumble, 2-yard touchdown run to make it 24-10 Denver. Peyton Manning hit Benny Fowler for the 2-point conversion, and that's how the game ended for the Denver Broncos. And on that fumble, by the way, Cam Newton looked like he was going to go for the ball and then kind of he was going to go down for it and then hesitated and backed off, almost like he didn't want to get in there and get hurt. But, you got to lay everything on the line. It's the last game of the season, the Super Bowl, and it looked like on the play he didn't do it. He just kind of backed out of it. And people are going to question probably Cam's toughness on that play because he did not dive for it. So let's quickly go over the team stats here. Carolina outgained Denver 315 yards to 194. So actually, it looked like Carolina had the better defense. They even controlled it. 32 minutes, 47 seconds to Denver's 27-13. Denver had 11 first downs to Carolina's 21. Both teams were pretty awful on third down conversions. Denver was 1 of 14, where Carolina was 3 of 15. Denver only averaged 3.5 yards per play, had 104 passing yards to 197 for Carolina. The reason why it was only 104 is because the sacks yardage for that Peyton Manning took come out of the passing yards, not the rushing yards. So they only had 3.7 yards per play there. Both teams threw an interception. So Denver was sacked 5 times for 37 yards, Carolina 7 for 68. Denver had 90 yards rushing to Carolina's 118 yards. Carolina was penalized 12 times for 102 yards. That's not good in the Super Bowl. You don't want to be penalized that many times. They had false start penalties. They had a lot of pre-snap penalties. They had a lot of holding on defensive calls. In the end of the game, they had some personal fouls. Early in the game for Denver, Aqib Talib had an offsides call, had a couple of personal fouls called against him that kept Carolina's drives alive, that led to a touchdown. So 6 penalties, 51 yards for Denver. The key, though, was the Carolina turnovers. They had 4 to Denver's 2. 3 of them were fumbles by Carolina. 2 led to touchdowns for Denver. And then, of course, 2 led to touchdowns for Denver. That was the Cam Newton fumbles. So 1 defensive touchdown for Denver in this game. So that is the team stats. So that does it, actually, for the NFL season. We brought you all the way, weeks 1 through 17, and the playoffs. Talked about college football as well. What did you think of Super Bowl 50? What were your favorite moments from the game? Comment in the comment section below. Also, comment down below what was your favorite commercial. Did you like the halftime show as well? I really didn't pay attention to the commercials a whole lot. I was kind of tweeting throughout that, and during the halftime show, I was actually putting my vlog together. Actually, was doing a halftime recap. So if you haven't checked out my vlog, check that out. I will definitely post a link to that in this video, so you can go back and watch. It kind of takes you through the whole day, what I was doing before the game, playing some video games, and then actually I was kind of, talking to the camera, talking to you guys as well during the game, so you kind of can get my game reaction as things were happening. So next season, we'll see if the Broncos can do it again with probably Brock Osweiler at quarterback. Still probably going to have a good defense. I don't know, what's going to be in store for next season. Right now, probably Denver is not the favorites. From what I read, actually, they had the next year's favorites already come out before the Super Bowl was even played. I guess the Patriots and Seahawks are favorites, but that's really no shock. Patriots are good every year, and the Seahawks are pretty good as well. But, of course, we still have the NFL draft. There's still going to be free agency going on. Players are going to be retiring. So, players could get injured. So, favorites, that's going to change. We'll definitely be previewing all that stuff next season as well. Probably around, week 1 again. Or we'll be doing a little bit, actually, probably during the exhibition season as well. So that will do it for this edition of Sports Talk. We'll have to figure out what we're going to talk about next Monday. Probably going to start delving into talking about the NCAA tournament coming up in March. What teams are on the bubble, what teams are definitely going to be locks. Talk about the number 1 seeds. Not going to talk upsets yet because we don't know what the seedings are, but maybe start looking at some Cinderella teams. So we probably won't recap in college basketball every week what what the finals of the games are. Might go into maybe Michigan a little bit, talk about them. But otherwise, we'll probably, maybe do something each week, maybe talk about, who the number 1 seeds are, like I said, who's on the bubble, who are some Cinderella teams to watch out for once the tournament rolls around. And then we can do a full-fledged preview of it once all that happens. And then, of course, conference tournaments, we'll, take a look at those also, talking about, which conference champions, pose the greatest threat to teams in the tournament. And then, of course, what, sleeper teams could there be? Teams that are kind of under the radar that we're not talking about right now that, are ranked, or maybe an unranked team that's all of a sudden coming alive. And, of course, all that changes because there's a lot of momentum that's going to swing both ways. And that happened in the Super Bowl today. Go figure. A lot of momentum on Denver's side all game. So congratulations to those Denver Broncos. Yeah! Super Bowl 50 champions. 3rd championship in franchise history. They've been there 8 times. And so they've won 3 times. They've lost 5. But out of the last 4 times they've been there, they've won 3 of them. So they don't have the most wins all time. That belongs to the Pittsburgh Steelers, I believe. They have 6 championships. San Francisco, I believe, has 5. So Denver still has 3 more to go to tie them. See if they can do it. And maybe one of these years the Tennessee Titans can get back and win. Maybe the Lions can get there as well. That would be a shocker if the Lions ever made it there. All right, I'm starting to ramble here. I'll let you guys go now. So thank you for watching, and thank you for subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe to my channel for more content. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Links are in the description below. I look forward to talking to you about college basketball. And, of course, keep following my channel for other videos as well as we talk about video games, just doing some vlogs. And you never know what kind of weather is going to happen as well. And I do videos on that as well. So until we talk again next Monday, this is Michael Loudon. Over and out. Hope you had a fantastic Super Bowl Sunday and having a great beginning to the work week. I have a dentist appointment I have to get to, so see you later.